But for the Protoss, if they go, Forge first, they can even go Nexus first, depending on what the
Yeah.
Zerg does. And
If you don't see a pool, Nexus first.
yep, and I mean, it's pretty interesting how that matchup will go.
Yeah.
And then we also know that if a Roach player decides to transition into that Roach lane push, for ending the game really early, the correct response from a Protoss player would be at least 3 cannons. You
Yeah.
can hold off the Roaches with 3 cannons.
Yeah.
Though, Aegis, let me ask you something, because a lot of Protoss players will do this to me. They'll do a Forge expansion and then get a Gateway and then a cannon. Are you familiar with this opening? I mean, I feel like it gives them a little more options with, choosing
Uh,
to get units
yeah,
out.
yeah. Sounds absolutely normal. That's against a Zerg player that we know have expanded and has his expansion, like definitely will be finishing his expansion, such as knowing that he's gone expansion first. So that's definitely viable against a Zerg player that goes expansion first.
Yep.
See if the players are ready.
Yeah, plus it's convenient for Protoss players to get that fast +1, whether they want to go for, attack against Zerg or armor against Terran.
Yeah. So like in the gateway first, it does allow you to get your tech up faster, but it does make you slightly more vulnerable against those Roach Aling all-ins, because you are delaying making your next cannon, and if there's any pressure as of that point, the front could fall. But Tal'Darim Alter LE is our next map, and over here we have FCG Jezerol, is the correct way to say that. He's going to be
I think
playing
Gezerol.
Gezerol. And
Yeah.
his opponent is going to be Atlas from Chaos Factors.
Yeah, much easier name to pronounce.
Yeah,
One that I'm actually familiar with.
Yeah.
And, we see cross positions, no big deal. But once again, this map, it's really interesting for Protoss versus Zerg, just because of the variations. Not to mention, this is a map where we sometimes will see Niduses and Hydra drops, all kinds of options.
So Jezerol, or Gezerol? What was it?
Yeah, Gezerol.
Gezerol is saying that he doesn't want to be 6 pooled. Of course, that is the hard counter to the Forge Fast expanding on this map.
Yep.
But, rarely do Zerg players ever do that, because in case the Protoss player's micro is absolutely top notch, it's just kind of hard to break him as of that point. And the correct way to respond to a 6 pool on this map is actually to build a pylon by your main nexus and build a cannon there. It's not to try to wall off the front. I know from experience.
Fair enough. And it is going to be, I'm definitely predicting the Forge first, and there it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's exactly how almost every Protoss will open on this map.
Yeah, essentially,
And,
you could consider everything else to be less than ideal. Like, really, you could get your natural expansion absurdly fast, also have your Forge, and have your Warp Gate timing relatively, at a decent timing. So there's no real reason not to do this. So if you see a Protoss player kind of not doing this, he's going to be one-basing.
This is something that Destiny does on this build. I'll just speak for the Zerg. He was forced to go spawning pool first just because of the threat of cannons and, pylon wall-offs. There's all kinds of stuff. But here's what's fun about this map. Atlas is going to get his fast expand, and then, you'll usually hear that Zerg players cannot be on equal bases with a Protoss, so they need to get their third. And because there's rocks there, you can place a hatchery next to the rocks and use it as a macro hatch to drone pump, and then you kill the rocks when you can and put up your third, so you don't fall behind in the economic game.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, it's probably the best option the Zerg has.
And I've also seen Destiny do this really funky 2-base infestor timing, where he walks over to the Protoss wall with all of his stuff and just throws infested Terrans all over the Protoss wall and just wins.
Absolutely. That's another viable option.
I think he's the only one that actually does that, though. So.
I actually like using infestors. I think that if you can get them fast enough and go laying infestor against a 4-gate, excuse me, I said that wrong. Lots of times Protoss players will do that 6-gate timing, but if you can handle that with infestors,
yeah, absolutely.
And and then exactly what you said, when I finally had held it off, I counterattacked and threw Infested Terran everywhere at his expansion.
Yeah.
So it was game ending.
Yeah. So there's the natural expansion coming up for Jezerol.
Yeah, we see double gas somewhat early. What do you think about that? Just maybe getting out some sentries in case of any roaches?
Protoss, for this, you need that double gas basically pretty quickly for this build because your mineral account is going to skyrocket. And if you don't get that double gas, you're going to be stuck on a lot of mineral heavy tech, meaning zealots. And that's not really tech. So you need that 2 double gas very quickly to be able to get those techie stuff up in case your opponent is trying to kill you, which is relatively easy to do if you only have zealots. So generally...
No, this is...
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say this is a bit odd. We see that he's somewhat walled off. He has a zealot in place. I don't think that roaches can get through there. I could be mistaking.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
But the other thing, we do see the Roach Warrens on the way, and we see speed too. The fact that the Roach Warren is so early, I have to think that maybe he's going to do that all in. But we only have 1 cannon up for Jezerol. So
yeah, so what's interesting about what Jezerol is doing right now is he's made a lot of zealots. Like, this is an uncharacteristically large number of zealots.
Yeah, absolutely. He's walled in, too.
Yeah, so I think he's doing one of those Kiwikaki builds where he gets out a bunch of zealots and just goes over there and tries to kill something. It doesn't really matter what he kills as long as it's like a queen, a couple of drones, or a hatchery. And then during all of that, he's going to go ahead and make a Stargate.
Yeah, we see 5 zealots on the way.
Yeah.
And +1's about to finish, so excellent timing right now. But we have roaches, so I don't know. I think he's going to be able to get out the correct number of roaches before those zealots hit. And he did scout the zealot coming, so...
I think he scouted only one of the zealots coming. Jezerol is being very careful with his other 4 zealots to not show them.
There's also a spore crawler, so you're right. I don't think he knows what's coming.
And there's 2 Stargates on the way right now. This is definitely the Kiwikaki build. I think Atlas recognizes this, hence the spore crawler. Yeah, hence the spore crawler coming up. So he sees all the zealots. The zealots do survive in this case. Usually Kiwikaki sacrifices them. I don't know if that's correct or not. I'm not in a position to say whether or not that's correct. But these 2 Stargates will allow him to make, I think, like 6 Void Rays, and that's when he goes for the attack. And if the Zerg opponent hasn't to recognize this and thrown up a couple of spore crawlers, this is very strong.
Well, +1 is finished, or excuse me, it's about to finish for Atlas. And now we finally see Layer Tech on the way. So he's going to need a couple more spores. And the way he engages will be so important. Just because if it's a straight-on fight with Void Ray Zealot, the roaches are going to lose. But depending on how well he can do this, he might be able to do some serious damage, or, I mean, it might get held off completely.
Yeah. So, like, what he needs to do is get some additional spore crawlers, since just roaches, even if he cleans up the entire ground army, those Void Rays will get charged up, and they will kill a lot of stuff.
Yep, and it took a while, but Zerg players are finally favoring Hydras again. So Hydra Tech right now would be probably the best option for holding off this Void Ray push.
I think it's because recently Protoss players have found it harder to rush Colossus, which is amazing in a way, because, you know, rushing Colossus, you know, what are you thinking? But before, that's what everyone did. And I mean, there's still players who still do it, and it's still good, but there are multiple ways to hold it off now. And there's actually charge on the way, so this is a variation of the Kiwikaki build.
Yeah, and you know what else? I guess Warp Gate technology is finished, but he hasn't transitioned his gateways yet.
Huh, interesting. That's odd, but...
And, wow, yeah, you're right. +1 air weapons is on the way, too, for
wow,
Jezerol.
This is going to be a really strong push. I don't know if delaying it like this is actually a good thing in comparison to actually just going for it, but he is chrono boosting that out, so once his 6 Void Rays are out, and once he gets over there, that should be complete. Zealot charge is finishing up, so this is going to be one heck of a push. The Zerglings are checking for the 3rd base right now, but little does he know, Jezerol has no plan of taking that 3rd. anytime soon.
Yeah, Gezerel has superior upgrades, and I think that his composition is going to be much more effective because Atlas has skipped out on Hydras and he's gone into Mutalisk play.
He's spotted all of the Void Rays out right now with his Overseer, so he should be throwing down a bunch of Spore Crawlers right now. Where are they? No Spore Crawlers on the way. He does have a Spire finishing up, but I don't know if it's going to be in time. The push is coming out right now. The Zealots are up at the front. The Void Rays are also going to be joining in. There's 5 Gateways out in the field.
He needs to catch those Zealots out of place while he can, do some damage, but no, the Zealots are being smart and falling back, going to rely on those Void Rays.
Void Rays are going to begin charging up on those Roaches, and the Zealots now advancing forward as well, and Zealots do beat Roaches one-on-one. So with that Zealot charge, it's going to be so strong. There are Spore Crawlers coming up, but with this number of Void Rays, I don't think this...
Oh, no, and the Mutalisks are not going to be able to fight this at all.
There's not large enough. Usually, Mutos are the counter to this, but there's just not enough Mutos right now. There are a few, and it looks like the Zealots now engaging the Zerglings up at the front. Additional Stalkers now being warped in, and the Void Ray is going to be able to clean up everything that's on the ground. The Void Rays are beginning to charge up, and the Roaches...
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
Void Rays and Mass are just so
Especially
powerful.
when Atlas just didn't scout this, and now they're charged up. No number of Mutalisks can actually deal with 6 charged up Void Rays. 5 actually.
No, not at all. And you know, we've seen about what, 10, maybe 12 Mutalisks by now, and just imagine how many Hydras that could have been.
Yeah, and
oh, whoa. Oh, there we go. He's just microing a little bit away from that. I was gonna say, you're gonna leave that hatchery up.
No, he's...
All those Void Rays keeping their charge right now. So effective.
And so Jezreel is going to be warping in some additional units. Going to be pushing real soon. And Atlas CF, he doesn't really have too much. He's got a bunch of Roaches, and they will get cleaned up here by the Void Rays and the Stalkers. Additional Void Rays now coming in here for Jezreel. And Atlas, all the pressure is on. He's needing to win all the remaining games for his team if his team wants to win it.
This is such an interesting build and so powerful.
Yeah, and GG.
Once again, the fact that he didn't have those Hydralisks, that just destroyed him right there.
Absolutely. That was a straight play out of KotH's playbook. It's been seen many times at MLG and other events. I really like the build because it catches Zerg players off guard. It's like, who goes to Stargate Void Ray? Like, noobs, right? But KotH made this up, and with perfect macro, pumping out those Zealots, making sure his money low, it's actually an insanely strong build.
Yep, and we already said that it's just now turning that Zerg players are going back to Hydra. So, you know, it's an excellent way to shut somebody down for going Mutalisk.
So, well, I don't know if it shuts people down from going Mutalisk, but it does shut down the Zerg players that try to make a ton of Roaches, which is what we saw in this game. If those had been Hydras instead, like there wasn't a single Roach on the field, they would have been able to rip apart those Void Rays with the Zerglings sort of tanking the damage from the Zealots.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If it had been Roach Ling, it would have been a different... Or excuse me, Mutaling, it would have been a different story. But he invested a lot of gas into those Roaches.
So, congratulations for Convergence Gaming, taking another match, winning this one 6-1. They have been the king of this hill for 3 weeks now, and they will be playing 4 Kings next week.
Yep. All right, once again, guys, I'm Reptile. That's Aegis. Aegis, I'm going to put up our screens again. Do you have any final comments?
Yeah, just check out my YouTube, youtube.com/AegisStarcraft2. Thanks for watching.
All right, and we'll see you guys next week.